Welcome to Raising Daughters, the podcast that helps parents learn the best ways to support their daughters as they navigate the high levels of stress, anxiety, pressure, and uncertainty so pervasive in our culture today. Dr. Tim Jordan is a developmental and behavioral pediatrician who has specialized in counseling girls for over 30 years and sheds light on the realities of today's young women in all facets of their lives. This is your opportunity to learn how to better support your daughters, making them feel safe, secure, and truly loved in the midst of life's ups and downs. Here is your host, Dr. Tim.
Hello, friends. Thanks for checking in again here on Raising Daughters. I almost said Families First. That was the radio show my wife and I did for years a while back. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. I was going through a bunch of my old files during the holidays, and I found a bunch of old stories I used to tell in my talks years ago that I hadn't told in a long time. And I love these stories, and I think they pertain really well. Each one has a little kernel of truth, or a little bit of parenting advice, if you will. So I thought today, for this podcast, I would tell you some of those stories and then give you a little bit of commentary at the end of each one. The first one goes like this. It's called The Little Boy. He stands at the plate with his heart pounding fast. The bases are loaded, the die has been cast. Mom and Dad cannot help him, he stands all alone. A hit at this moment would send his team home. The ball meets the plate, he swings and he misses. There's a groan from the crowd with some boos and some hisses. A thoughtless voice cries, "Strike out the bum." Tears fill his eyes, the game's no longer fun. So open your heart and give him a break. For it's moments like this a man you can make. Keep this in mind when you hear someone forget he's just a little boy and not a man yet. Boy, I've seen so many kids who feel a lot of pressure from their parents when it comes to their activities, their sports, whatever it may be, and their grades. I saw a girl in my office not that long ago. She's in high school, and she's been struggling with her schoolwork, and I think she's got some learning issues that need to be tested, which she's going to do. But the dad has told her for a long time, half kiddingly but not, that she's going to college no matter what. Because she has told him, I'm not sure if I even want to go to college. I'm not sure what I want to do. And he said, you're going to college or you don't get my inheritance. And he means it. It's not just a joke. And she's not taking it just as a joke. He also said, when you go to college, I don't care what you major in. You can choose that as long as it adds up to, in the end, that you can apply to law school. That is not a isolated incident. I hear stories of that sort all the time. Pressure on kids, pressure, pressure, pressure. I have a good friend who's a referee for high school football and basketball. And he says it's amazing how awful the parents are. They're awful to their kids. They're awful to the coaches. They're awful to the kids at the other teams. He said it's amazing how many parents are screaming and cursing. He's at the point now where he wants to quit because it's not fun because of that. And that, by the way, is the number one reason why kids quit youth sports. It's no longer fun. And it's usually no longer fun because the coach is too into winning, the coach is screaming at the kids, or the parents are too intense. So they're just little kids, or big kids. Watch your pressure. Here's one of my favorite stories. I'm going to have to read this one. It's a little bit long, but it's worth it. Once a little boy went to school. One morning, when the little boy had been in school a while, the teacher said, "Today we're going to make a picture." Good, thought the little boy. He loved to make pictures. He could make all kinds of pictures, lions and tigers and chickens and cows and trains and boats. So he took out his box of crayons and he began to draw. But the teacher said, "Wait, it's not time to begin." And she waited till everyone was looking. "Now," said the teacher, "we're going to make flowers." Good, thought the little boy. I love making flowers. And he began to make beautiful ones with his pink and orange and blue crayons. But the teacher said, "Wait, and I will show you how." And it was red with a green stem. "There," said the teacher, "this is the kind of flower you need to make. Now you may begin." The little boy looked at the teacher's drawing, then looked at his own flower. He liked his flower better than the teacher's, but he didn't say this. He just turned his paper over and he made the flower just like the teacher's. It was red with a green stem. On another day, when the little boy had opened the door from the outside all by himself, the teacher said, "Today we're going to make something with clay." Good, thought the little boy. I love making things with clay. He can make all kinds of stuff with clay. Snakes and snowmen and elephants and mice and cars and trucks. and he began to pull and pinch his ball of clay. But the teacher said, "Wait, it's not time to begin." And she waited till everyone looked up at her and was ready. "Now," said the teacher, "we're going to make a dish." Well, he thought, I'd like to make dishes too, and to make some dishes that were all shapes and all kinds of sizes. But the teacher said, "Wait, and I will show you how." And she showed everyone how to make one deep dish. "There," said the teacher, "now you may begin." The little boy looked at the teacher's dish, then he looked at his own, and he liked his dishes a lot better than the teacher's, but he did not say this. He just rolled his clay back up into a big ball, and he made a dish just like the teacher's. It was a deep dish. And pretty soon, the little boy learned to wait and to watch and to make things just like the teacher. And pretty soon, he didn't make things of his own anymore. Then it happened that the little boy and his family moved to another house in another city, and the little boy had to move to another school. On the very first day of his new school, when he was there, the teacher said, "Today we're going to make a picture." Good, thought the little boy, and he waited for the teacher to tell him what to do. But the teacher didn't say anything. She just walked around the room, and when she came to the little boy, she said, "Don't you want to make a picture?" "Of course I do," said the little boy. "What are we going to make?" "Well, I don't know until you make it," said the teacher. "Well, how should I make it?" asked the little boy. "Why, any way you want," said the teacher. "Any colors?" said the little boy. "Yes, any colors," said the teacher. "If everyone makes the same picture and uses the same colors, how would we know who made what and what was which?" "Well, I don't know," said the little boy. And he sat down and he thought for a moment and began to make a red flower with a green stem. I think too often we do that with kids. We tell them the right way to build something with their Legos, the right way to draw a picture. And we don't allow them to do it their way. We don't follow their lead enough and allow them to use their creativity and their imaginations. So I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to allow them to do that in their way and in their style, because otherwise they do start making things with a green stem and a red flower like everybody else. And then we lose a lot. Kids lose their sense of creativity, they lose their imaginations, and they end up not being able to have original thought, which is a hugely important quality for them to go into adulthood with. Another story. This is a true story. The Bembemba tribe of South Africa handles antisocial behaviors in their kids in a very unique way. Not just kids, but adults as well. The person who's done something wrong is placed in the center of the village. All work stops, and everybody forms a large circle around her. And one at a time, each person, including kids, call out the good things they've noticed that girl has done in her lifetime. Positive attributes, good deeds, strengths, kind acts that they've noticed that she has done. This ceremony can take several days until everybody has exhausted their affirmations. There's not one word about her irresponsible antisocial behavior. At the end of this, there's a joyous celebration as she is welcomed back into the tribe. And this makes her resolve to want to live up to the tribe's expectations and be that person. I saw a little girl not too long ago in my office who had been in trouble at school. She's a really powerful little creature, one of the most powerful little girls I've ever met. And she doesn't like to be told what to do. And so sometimes she this year has an autocratic teacher. And she's a little kid. She's like in third grade. And so there's been a few times when she got into power struggles with the teacher and she was disrespectful, which of course is not okay. And the teacher is not respecting her need for control and power and giving her opportunities to lead and to have some appropriate power. So what she's been doing to this little girl is she's on her all the time. And the little girl doesn't think the teacher likes her. And I don't think the teacher probably does. I think the little girl's probably right. A lot of teachers, this is going to sound horrible, a lot of teachers like the kids who sit still and shut up and listen. They don't like the kids who are more free-spirited, the kids who are more independent-minded, the kids who are powerful. They're tougher to deal with. You have to work with them. One of the things I suggested to this mom is to tell the teacher to spend some special time with her, maybe before school or after school, to befriend her, to take her under her wing, let her know, I care about you. It's okay for her to not put up with disrespect, but if this little girl goes to school every day thinking the teacher doesn't like her, then the teacher's probably gonna get this little girl's worst. And what she really needs is to know that the teacher appreciates who she is and recognizes her need for more control and more power. Here's a nice little poem. It's called Please, Mom and Dad. My hands are small. I don't mean to spill my milk. My legs are short. Please slow down so I can keep up with you. Don't slap my hands when I touch something pretty and bright. I just don't understand. And please look at me when I talk to you. It lets me know you're really listening. My feelings are tender. Don't nag me all day long. Let me make mistakes without feeling stupid. Don't expect the bed I make or the pictures I draw to be perfect. Just love me for trying. And remember, I'm a child, not a small adult. Sometimes I just don't understand what you're saying or what you want from me. I love you so much, and please just love me for just being me and not just for the things that I do. That's a good reminder to us. Number one, to not parent your kids with an autocratic style, which is full of criticism and judgment and yelling and nagging and doing things for kids, but more with an authoritarian style where you respect kids' needs, if you will. It's a much healthier model, and there's a lot of research that would back that up. The other thing that I also think about when I hear that poem is, I think too often today we value things like achievement over character. And we're raising a generation of kids to be human doings instead of human beings. Make sure that you're not doing that with your children. Here's one of my favorite poems. It's called Give Her a Day. What shall you give to one small girl? A glamorous game, a tinsel toy, a Girl Scout knife, a puzzle pack, a train that runs on some curving track, a picture book, a real-life pet. No, there's plenty of time for such things yet. Give her a day for her very own, just one small girl and her dad alone. A walk in the woods, a romp in the park, a fishing trip from dawn to dark. Give her the gift that only you can, the companionship of her old man. Games are outgrown and toys will decay, but she'll never forget if you give her a day. I know we all know that we're supposed to spend time with our kids, but I think sometimes in this busy, hectic world, sometimes that we don't have time for that in the end because we're so busy doing other things. It's been somewhat of a blessing that more parents are able to work from home, at least part-time or full-time. But even if you're not working from home, we still bring our work home with us way more than we used to because of all the devices that we have and because it's now okay to do work from home. It's not just okay, it's expected. So there's a lot of times when even when we're with our kids, we're distracted. We're not all there. And they can tell that when we're constantly looking at our phones and looking at text messages and things, we're not fully present. So I want you to remember to have special time with your kids, special one-on-one time. Create some special dates, some special rituals that you do just with that daughter or that son, and do them as often as you can. We don't have time to take them to Disney World every weekend. It can be small things like taking the dog for a walk with just them, making sure you have long tuck-ins every night, not just some nights, but every night. Establish some fun things you do with each child that pertains to their interests and their passions. My wife and I call that investing in their goodwill account. How much goodwill is there in your relationship with your daughter or your son or your spouse or your friends or with anybody? And one of the best ways to give a deposit into your goodwill account with your daughter is to spend special time. So make sure you create that time and you stick with it. And don't allow the busyness of our everyday lives to interfere with that. Don't put it on the end of the time, like, I'll do that if I have time. Make sure you put that in there somewhere in your schedule so that no matter what, you get to it. A couple more stories. This is another one of my favorite poems. It's called To Any Athlete. There are little eyes upon you, and they're watching night and day. There are little ears that quickly take in every word you say. There are little hands all eager to do everything you do, and the little boy who's dreaming of the day he'll be like you. You're the little fellow's idol, you're the wisest of the wise. In his little mind about you, no suspicions ever rise. He believes in you devoutly, holds that all that you can do, he will do and say in your way when he's grown up, just like you. There's a wide-eyed little fellow who believes you're always right, and his ears are always open, and he's watching day and night. You are setting an example every day in all you do for the little boy who's waiting to grow up to be like you. Kids are always watching us, and they probably follow suit more with what we do than with what we say. So be very mindful of how you treat your spouse, how you treat your friends, how you treat yourself, how you treat anybody, because they're watching and they're learning. And there's a really good chance they're going to mirror it and mimic it and eventually internalize it. So make sure what they're internalizing is things that you want them to internalize. Be very conscious of what you're putting out there. Let me give you a quick example. And this is going to sound terrible, but I'm not much of a drinker, never have been. Didn't drink in high school, didn't drink hardly at all in college. I'm just not a big drinker, even as an adult. But when my kids were approaching their middle school years, I made it a point to never drink and drive. And let me clarify that. I'm not a big drinker. But I decided that if we went out to a restaurant with the family, or I went to a ball game, I didn't have even one beer and then get in the car and drive them home. Because I knew when they turned 16 and were driving, especially one of my sons who's very intense, I knew that if he had seen me do that, and I said to him when he went out sometime when he's 16, make sure there's no drinking and driving, I wanted to be able to look him in the eye and say, you have never seen me even have one glass of wine or one beer and get behind that wheel. I want to be able to say that with full integrity. So be very mindful of what you're modeling. A couple more quick stories. Not quick, but good stories. One of them is from an African tribe called the Maasai tribe. And this is how they greet each other. And that tribe is known for being fierce warriors, but they have a very traditional greeting that they do with each other. And it's called, I'm probably going to say it wrong, but it's called Kasarian Injera, which means, and how are the children? That's their traditional greeting when they see one another. And how are the children? And the traditional answer is, all the children are well, meaning that peace and safety prevail in our tribe, that the priorities of protecting our young are always a priority, they're always in place, that our tribe has not forgotten its reason for being, its responsibilities. It means life is good, it's vital, and it's always vital to take care of our young. Imagine how our country would be different if every time our governors and our senators and our presidents and teachers and every parent asked that question to themselves before they made a decision. Is this in the best interest of our children? What if our greeting to all those people, the senators and leaders and president and the governor was, how are the kids? Are they well? What are you doing to ensure that all kids are well? Are you making decisions with the best interests of all children in mind? I think our leaders would make some much different choices if that was at the top of their list of priorities. And my feeling is it's not. There are other things that they put of way more importance than that. I'd like to see that shift. And it can start shifting in our homes as parents make decisions based upon what's in the best interests of our children. Let me end here with something that I found this old story. It's actually taken from a book of the same title. The title is All I Ever Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten by Robert Fulghum. Love this thing. I read that book a long, long time ago. I need to put on my high reading glasses to read this one. So all I ever really needed to know I learned in kindergarten. Most of what I really need to know and about how to live, what to do, and how to be, I learned in kindergarten. Wisdom was not at the top of the graduate school mountain, but there in the sandbox at nursery school. These are the things that I learned. Share everything. Play fair. Don't hit people. Put things back where you found them. Clean up your own mess. Don't take things that aren't yours. Say you're sorry when you hurt somebody. Wash your hands before you eat. Flush the toilet. Warm cookies and cold milk are good for you. Live a balanced life. Learn some and think some and draw and paint and sing and dance and play and work every day some. Take a nap every afternoon. And when you go out into the world, watch for traffic, hold hands, and stick together. Be aware of wonder. Remember the little seed in the plastic cup? The roots go down and the plant goes up and nobody really knows how or why, but we're all kind of like that. Goldfish and hamsters and white mice and even the little seed in the plastic cup, they all die, and so will we someday. And then remember the book about Dick and Jane and the first word you learned. The biggest word of all, look. Everything you need to know is in there somewhere. The golden rule and love and basic sanitation, ecology and politics and sane living. Think of what a better world it would be if we all, the whole world, had cookies and milk about 3 o'clock every afternoon and then laid down with our blankies for a nap. Or if we had a basic policy in our nation and other nations to always put things back where we found them and to clean up our own messes. And it is still true, no matter how old you are, when you go out into the world, it's always best to hold hands and stick together. Great stories. Stories with lots of wisdom in those pearls of wisdom. Be nice if we all would remember those, reread them, read them to our kids, and be very mindful about trying to live our lives with those sorts of messages in mind. Thanks so much for stopping by here. I'm here every week with almost always with a new podcast. Send any requests you have for topics that are important to you. You'll find copies of these poems and things on my show notes at the website drtimjordan.com. That's drtimjordan.com. I'll be back here in a week. I really appreciate you stopping by, and I will see you then. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Raising Daughters. Hopefully you've learned something useful about girls and young women and how to help them navigate the pressures, challenges, and opportunities of modern life. If you want to become a more effective parent, keep listening to the show at drtimjordan.com and let the conversations shape you. Build that one-of-a-kind connection with your daughters in the most profound and meaningful ways possible, shaping them into strong, confident women of the future. That's all for now. See you next week for another episode of Raising Daughters.